How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. This is your host, Brian Funk. I make music as AfroDJMac. And today I have Lynden Williams, who makes music as Divorce Court out of Salt Lake City. How you doing, Lynden? What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm very happy to have you. Definitely been enjoying the music you're putting out. Really cool vibe, laid back, almost like a summery thing, I feel, but like, this kind of a lo-fi laid back thing that I'm really into. So
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
I'm happy to talk to you about it a little bit. So, how long have you been making music? What's your background? What's the backstory? How'd you get started?
Yeah, so my background's a little bit different, I guess. In high school, I started DJing when I was like 15. And I spent most of like from 15 to 21 probably just DJing and just like really exploring music. And I was always really into electronic music, but more like electronic music that was less on the EDM side of things, you know?
Right.
I mean, I obviously loved EDM, has its time and place, but to listen to, I just started diving into really different styles of electronic music. And then right after high school, which will date me a little bit because I graduated high school in 2009.
Don't feel bad. You could have been one of my students.
That's pretty cool, actually. I wish I had a teacher who would have taught me Ableton, man. Jeez, after school programs were not a thing at my high school.
Well, we didn't have that back then. We're barely getting it off the ground now, but
now I feel better.
Yeah.
And then right after high school, I was doing the whole blog thing, and we had a couple different things going, which I still do, which we can talk about. But I kind of discovered this genre. It was probably 2009, 2010, just chill wave. And it kind of came out of nowhere, and people started making a ton of music like that. And that just is like the genre that started to inspire me to think, okay, I could probably make music myself and kind of look into it more. And then that feels like a slow journey because I'm 27. That was like 20 years old, I think, or 19 or 20. And I didn't actually, I would like have ripped programs on my laptop over the years, like Logic, probably 8. And a buddy let me use a copy of Ableton, but I didn't really decide I was going to do it until like 4 years ago.
Okay.
And I actually started making music on Bitwig Studio.
Oh, cool.
Which is a really cool program, actually.
Yeah, I probably want to ask you a little bit about that for sure. Nice. So, what artists did you get into like that kind of pulled you in? Because I had some pretty strong influences from that stuff too.
Yeah. I mean, you can see back here, there's a vinyl there that's like a huge inspiration to me. It's Washed Out's Paracosm.
Yes, I love that record.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ernest Green's stuff. And then during that same time period, and his new stuff is great too. It's like an artist that I've stayed a fan of. You know how artists change over the years, and sometimes it's like doesn't resonate with you as much. I respect those changes though, because you grow up and then your music changes, you know. But
right
during that time, it was probably when I sat there and thought, like, man, I need to make my own music. It was like Washed Out, Tore Moi, Blackbird, Summerheart, who I just played a show with this week, actually, from Sweden. Nice. I never met him until now, and he's like the nicest dude. We talked about music and creating, and we talked about The Art of War, which I know you talked about on that.
Or War of Art, right?
Sorry, there's two books. We talked about War of Art. Steven
Pressfield. Love.
Yeah,
oh yeah.
But there is an Art of War, right?
Yeah. That's the play. You know, it's like just flipping it around.
Yeah, it's probably a good book too.
I say that a lot too. Every time I bring up War of Art, I always like kind of slow down, like I just did there, just make sure I don't say it the wrong way.
It's a good book. It's cool because you can just kind of open it up and just read a few pages and get something from it. You know,
I actually have the audio version on. It's in my iTunes, and like chapter by chapter. So if I put on shuffle every once in a while, I get like, fight resistance,
The resistance stuff like goes on for a long time, but if you're just willing to like think through it, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think he's brilliant in kind of like calling you out on things that you think are productive and helpful, but it's actually the resistance, like in disguise.
Yeah.
Like
and while you're listening to it, you're like, I don't do that. And then you're like, oh yeah, I totally do that.
I felt like, the puppy that just like wet the carpet, and the owner's like, who did this? Because I'm like, oh yeah, I just spent 7 hours rearranging the studio.
Yes. I just actually rearranged today, actually, because I didn't want the background to look bad. So
nice.
Yeah, I was thinking about some other artists, probably like top 3 inspirations. And it's kind of scary to say this because some people are going to hear a song and be like, well, that sounds way too much like this artist. But I've heard you mention all the time, like, where do you get your ideas from? And everybody steals from different places. And it's probably, Washed Out, Small Black, and Tori Moi. So,
yeah, Small Black, I think they're from Brooklyn too, nearby.
Yeah, they are. Those guys, he's got one of my favorite voices too. He's just a super talented guy. So, but yeah, then music. So I did Bitwig for a while, and this is actually another funny thing. This is what kind of got me connected with more of you Ableton certified trainers is actually get a push and Ableton. So I didn't actually get Ableton until a year ago in August.
Okay.
So 13 months ago. But my buddy, Paul, really talented musician, I think his project's called Drape. I don't know if they're making stuff right now, but it's pretty cool. But we were in his house and he was just using the push, and he was like, dude, this thing will change your workflow and kind of your life. And I was like, yeah, whatever. I bought gear all the time and sold it. That didn't work for me.
Yeah, right.
And after I like watched something Thavius Beck did, something you did, and something just Ableton's website training videos, I was like, man, I really need this thing. Especially not being this is another like personal call out, but like I'm not a musician, like a trained musician. Like I can't sit at a keyboard and play this chord progression that you just call out to me,
Right.
So yeah.
Well, we definitely see more and more of that. People that aren't playing traditional instruments but can write great music, produce great music. And I think something like a push or a Launchpad, or it's a lot of these like kind of new devices. They are instruments, if you ask me. I mean, one of the things that drew me into using Live, in particular Ableton Live, was I felt like the whole studio was an instrument now. It wasn't just this like set of tools that I had to overcome to make music. It was like, oh, these are like creative things that I can play. I can play the delay with the knobs that I've now got mapped to my controllers and stuff. So
dude, I love. Speaking of delay, I'm gonna give you a little praise. I play your delay live on my master tracks at every show, and it's just so nice. I love having it.
Cool.
You don't have the live performance template from AfroDJMac. No one sets it up better. I'm not just saying that. I love it.
Cool. That's long work in progress. I kind of think of like my templates and my my like performance set as like a whole instrument. And that thing I've just been working on forever, and it's already way different now for me than it was. But I think that's like an important thing for people to do, is just like get in there, start making something and play, and just you sort of figure out what you need as you go, and you figure out what you don't need when you go. 'Cause I mean, there were times I had so much more going on, and I was like, I never touched this knob. Like, what am I doing? And I got I could get rid of a whole controller if I just take like.
I know, I've seen some clips of your live performance setup, and it's pretty intense. Overhead shot of it. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Right now, I've got I use push to play like melodies, keyboards, drums, to play like really just to control any sort of like live instrument, like within my synth or whatever. I have the APC 40 and a Launchpad. The Launchpad is really just, I use the APC 40 pretty much for what it's used for, like launching clips. I just remap some of the knobs for like vocal effects and certain effects that I know I'm going to use a lot.
Cool.
Launchpad is like samples and kind of like beat repeats and little effects there. And
Yeah, I
then
have the little launch pad. It's pretty nice. Launch
Yeah.
control. Like,
Okay. Yeah, I use the mini Launchpad just
oh,
because
that's
it's small, takes up a little less space. I like that I can like reach any button, any combination of buttons with one hand. Like my thumb could touch the bottom left and the pinky could touch the top right if I need to.
yeah.
And yeah, and OP1. I use the OP1. Love that thing.
You use you used to use a Chaos pad, right?
Briefly. Yeah. I don't even have it anymore. I sold it for something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wasn't using it a lot, and I like to keep the live performance setup really practical. So it's like easy to set up. It's not a lot of things. I can carry it all in a couple bags, one trip. You know, that's actually an important consideration for me.
Yeah. That's mine. It's a box, you know, it's just easy.
Yeah, because for me, like if I'm going, especially if I'm going into like the city, New York City, Brooklyn to play, the parking is always atrocious. So I might be walking in a quarter mile, half mile, or more just to get from the car to the show. And
You're like sweaty by the time you get to the venue.
yeah. Yeah. So like I need it to be one trip because I don't want to be like leaving my stuff in some corner of a club for 25 minutes while I go back to my car for something else. So that's a consideration, keeping it very portable. And the Chaos pad, I wasn't using it much, and it's a lot of wires, and it was just
in out. That
so you know, I simplified that.
I guess that's the question though. Like I go through this inner battle all the time as an electronic musician who's trying to sing and control everything.
Yeah.
Most of the time I'm a solo act. This Sunday I'm playing with the drummer, but
cool.
You go through that battle of like, when am I doing enough on stage to be satisfied and not have people be like, he's just pushing play. You know what I mean?
I hear that loud and clear. I'm definitely very self-conscious when I play.
Oh yeah.
Like, am I just doing karaoke up here, you know, or am I doing something interesting? And I've done shows where I listen back to them and I'm like, I'm just pushing buttons and turning knobs just so I look like I'm doing something at the detriment to the music, where it would sound better if I did less.
It's so hard though, because you have the breaks of your vocals where you look down and you're like, well, everything's going well. You know, I don't have a keyboard part to play here. So it's, I don't know. So, but then you look at these, I mean, big DJs and what are they doing? You know, they're just having a good time. And you know, like you said in your episode about the video game conference, it's like, if you're in a good mood, you can relay that to the crowd, and the positive energy is what really. So,
yeah, I'm also noticing too that if you start doing a lot, then you're sort of like expected to do a lot the whole time. Like for instance, if you have a song that you put vocals on, even at all, if you stop at some point and let it be instrumental, it's kind of like, where are the vocals now? You miss them.
Yeah.
But if you just play the song like instrumentally, no one ever really says, as long as it's interesting enough, no one will say like, what happened to the vocals? But there's
you almost feel like if it was instrumental, you have to start a whole new project and be like, this is my instrumental project. There's an artist who I really appreciate. I feel like he doesn't live by any rules and he just puts out what he makes, and I love it. He's called Teen Days.
Teen Days. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, one of my buddies turned me on to that.
Yeah, his stuff is really amazing. But he'll put out like a whole EP or album of something that's totally different than the album before, but it's still him and it's always good, you know, so you kind of just love it.
Yeah, you kind of just trust his sensibility after a while.
Yeah, totally. Takes a while, I think.
Yeah, I think, you know, kind of, you mentioned Washed Out earlier, right? And some of the newer records are a little more slick. And one of the things that I could, you know, when he first came out with there's just like a couple songs, they were like slowed down samples of like really
High Times with like the orange and yellow cover of just, it's like mostly just samples with no vocals.
I think actually it had like a picture of like someone swimming in a lake or something like that.
Oh yeah, that's
It had the one that's on that show, Portlandia.
like Portlandia. I was like, I've never seen that show before.
Yeah.
No, so that's Within and Without. That's a good record. It's got a ton of samples on it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it might even be before that, because that was the one with like the, which is with the like picture of the people in bed, right?
Yeah, never. Sorry.
It was like really demo-y. The point is like it was really lo-fi.
All the listeners are like screaming like, "It's this! It's called Life of Leisure." I just looked it up.
Yeah, there you go. So
yeah, that's a good one. I liked it.
I'd never really like heard a lot of or been exposed to like some like lo-fi electronic music like that, and I that really got me, you know, because I've always been into like lo-fi rock and, you know, garage rock, and I was just like, oh cool, like this is electronic, but it's still got a lot of like the sensibility of a song, and it's got that like vibe I'm really into. Like it sounds like it was put in the washing machine and recorded to VHS.
Yeah, totally. No, yeah, that's actually kind of the same thing. Like I'd come across so many websites with Ableton packs and all this stuff, and I finally found yours, and I was like, AfroDJMac, huh? And I was honestly, I know you talked about the name recently, how it kind of accidentally stuck, which I love it. But going on it, I was like, what is this going to sound like? But all your packs were like resonated with me on what I liked, you know, like the VHS drums and all the resampled like tape stuff. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I just gave you my money, and now I'm a monthly subscriber.
Oh, that's cool. I think it's important to like kind of go with what you like, you know. I have in the past like tried to make things that I thought people would like, and
yeah, you talked about that sweet trap kit you made.
Yeah, like I wasn't even into that, like dubstep one. It was just like, hey, people will want this, and
Elephant was saying like you have to just you basically are successful. That's a funny word to use, but when you start, you're more successful when you just make what you want to make, what you like.
Yeah. I think there's enough people out there that are like any individual, right? Any person that, and now that we have the internet to connect us, like I think the more real you are, the more people pick up on it, and sometimes it's good if there are people that don't like it and like, this isn't for me. Totally. It kind of shows you're on the right track because it's for someone else more so.
Yeah, I feel like I got a little more forgiving with all music when I started making music myself. So now like I'll hear a song, maybe I don't like it personally, but as someone who makes it now, like I think to myself like, oh, like this is just them. Like it doesn't matter if I don't like it, like they're being true to what they like and what they like. I think I'm less critical. Like, oh, this song sucks, you know?
Yeah.
I'm sure people hear my music and like, this song sucks, you know?
Right. Yeah, probably that for everybody. I mean, like I've said that about music that definitely doesn't suck. It's just not what I like, you know? Artists that are very talented, but you know, you're just not into it.
Totally.
But I think if you can like think about it like as a producer, there's usually something you can find to appreciate, some sort of production value thing, and an interesting vocal effect, or you know, I don't listen to like a lot of pop music, like top 40 stuff, but sometimes the production stuff is like incredible, and there's so much to take away from it, where it's kind of cool, like because I can really enjoy music on that level without even actually liking the songs or liking the whatever it is about it, you know.
Yeah, one of the some listeners are gonna hate this, but one of the like best concerts I've ever been to was Katy Perry.
Oh yeah,
just because like the pure. I went with my wife, and like she wasn't a huge fan. We just got tickets pretty cheap, and
I'm sure it's a spectacle. I mean,
yeah, that's a good word. It literally is a spectacle, and you look up at what they're using sound wise, and like the way everybody's just on point. Like, it's kind of just unreal to see a show like that.
Yeah,
and she's a great singer too. So you think about singing like that in front of a huge crowd every single night or every other night, it's kind of blew me away.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to like, and maybe this goes away when you start trying to do it yourself, but it's really easy to like be like, well, it's all auto-tuned and quantized, and there's all these songwriters and the best musicians come in and they play on all the tracks. You can write it off like that, but when you see the production, when you actually realize what's going into that, and then it's not garbage. Despite what you actually think your tastes are, this is like the culmination of some pretty serious work by some very talented professionals.
Yeah,
and you can appreciate it on that level.
Oh, for sure.
I thought it was cool when she came out on like the dinosaur or whatever at the Super Bowl that one year. It's like, dude, awesome. Cool. Ride a dragon to the field. Why not? That's great. You said something earlier about influences, like saying like, oh, this song sounds too much like that or this. And I used to be like that a lot, and it used to hamstring me quite a bit with the writing. But I heard an interview read an interview with Paul McCartney, and he was talking about how he had heard that The Who had written the heaviest song like ever. Like that's how they like described it. This is the heaviest, loudest song you'll ever hear. So Paul McCartney was like, oh yeah, he's because what a cool time, by the way, having all these artists like inspiring each other and competing with each other. But that's what inspired him to write Helter Skelter, like taking like what Pete Townsend had said about it. And he's like, well, I'm going to do what he just did. And great. Like the result is just so cool. And he went on to say, he's like, every time I write a song, I have another one in mind, that I'm kind of taking from on some level. And
I think when you're creating, especially early on, like you always have these songs in mind, and then you kind of just decide like, I'm going to make music that sounds like my favorite music. And then you go to do that and it doesn't sound like anything else because it's your music. And it's hard to admit that at first and accept that, and then you get self-conscious and you're like, oh no, this doesn't sound like exactly like what I like to listen to,
Right.
I go through that battle a lot where I make something and it's like, is this too this or that? Is this too like vulnerable or too, I don't know, simple? Simplicity is hard too. You always wonder, is this too simple? But then you hear like a great song that's literally just like 3 chords, with some layering, and it's great. So
that's one that gets me a lot is the idea of like, oh, this is just the 1-4-5 progression, this is a simple melody in the major scale. I should be in some strange mode and modulating and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of my favorite music is pretty straightforward. There might be a curveball here or there, but like I'm a huge Beatles fan, and a lot of their stuff is pretty like melodic, and I don't even want to say it now that I started saying it, but there is like a simplicity to it on a level, but they always do something. There's always something, some little twist, some little melody, some note, some weird chord that you're like, where did this chord come from? And it makes it. And I think when I can let go of that and not worry about if I'm being like intelligent enough and artistic enough, I do so much better. It's almost like a trust thing. Like I have to trust myself that along the way somewhere I'll do something that I think is cool. You know what I mean? But it's hard.
I never thought of it. That's cool.
It's hard, and like sometimes I have tried to make music that sounds like this song or that song or this band or that group, and I think it almost always winds up off the mark, either because of my abilities just not being there, or that my own like flavors come in somewhere. It's almost like we're all making a stew and we're just grabbing ingredients, but different types of ingredients, and putting it in there.
Yeah, it would be kind of interesting. Like my like coveted piece of gear is the OP1, and it would be interesting to do and I know they do this all the time, but to sit with like your 5 favorite music friends and just do like, because it's just one instrument, you know,
Yeah.
do like an hour and say like, let's make a track in an hour on our own in headphones and then show it. And it's crazy to think of one piece of gear being able to sound so different because everybody's just so unique in the way they think about it.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation with some of the people in my Berkeley class, Berkeley Online. We have like a chat every week. And this one guy, Fred, shout out to Fred. He went to he went to like a Paris electronic music like meetup, you know, I think it was on meetup.com or a similar site. But they were given 3 samples and they went away for like an hour and a half and came back. And
Wow.
he's like, everyone did something different. And he played me his piece, and I was like really impressed with how developed and evolved it was for only being an hour and a half worth of time. And only being his thing too was I'm only using these samples. So he's on that because it's a sampling course. So he was like, I'm only using these samples, whereas, you know, you could use other things. I understand.
He created like a percussion out of something that wasn't.
Yeah. It was awesome. And it was arranged.
Wow.
So
those timers help for sure.
Oh yeah.
Like I failed at January. I failed so hard at January. Like I got the doc and I was all ready to go. And then like 3, I was just like, I get like pretty seasonal depression. Like January 1st to like the end of February, I'm just like, this sucks, you know?
Yeah.
So it's good to do that challenge. But since I failed, I was like, all right, I'll do my own challenge. So I started doing these 1-hour challenges where I just set a timer on my phone and open up a fresh project. And then I post what I finished on SoundCloud just so I had it for myself. So I knew like, okay, it's public, like, you know, to get over that fear.
Yeah.
I've since made them private, but at the time it was good. Like I feel like in an hour I was able to get creative and do things quickly that I wouldn't have done if I sat there and overthought it, you know?
Yeah. Well, that time limit really makes you focus on the only thing that's important. You don't have time to mess around and go through all your kick drums and every effect, see how it sounds.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in school and the paper's due the next morning. Like you get it done somehow. Like you just get down to business. You don't waste time anymore.
Yeah, I wish I was like more dedicated to myself with time limits because I was supposed to put out my EP on August 31st.
Yeah.
That was the time limit I set for myself. And yeah, it's still not out. I sent you some demos, but
yeah. They were really cool. It's definitely something I want to talk to you a little bit about. So like as a person who also appreciates like that like kind of lo-fi feeling, I'm just curious like how you're getting that sound, you know, because here we are with like the most pristine recording gear, like if we were in the 60s.
Microphone. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, like so like what's your process like when you make a song?
Yeah, so this is an interesting question. I've never really like broken this down outside of my own head, you know?
Yeah.
I will say one way that I get a lo-fi like DIY sound, like I said in the email to you last week, was like I am an amateur still. And I like that. Like I don't want things to sound perfect, but even if I did, I don't think I'd be able to get it perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's kind of fun because I don't think I like have any rules when I'm using a compressor or an EQ or stacking. So I usually, and I know this is kind of counterintuitive to most people I talk to, but I actually usually start my tracks by selecting 1 to 3 pad sounds.
Okay.
And starting to like write some sort of ethereal like pad progression that's going to kind of be underneath the whole song. And lately I've been trying to switch that up a bit and do drums more first because drums are hard for me because I'm not a drummer. And sometimes I think I wait too long to like really be like, this is the drums. So the other night, like a few nights ago, I did a track where I did drums first. So it's good to switch it up. But yeah, I usually start a track. I choose a key. And it's weird with the divorce court, specifically with this project. They're all kind of based on feelings and like memories that I've had. And so for whatever reason, I've written all my divorce chord tracks in major so far. I'll go to write in minor and it just doesn't resonate with me for this project. That being said, they're like flat majors and like kind of different things that are more interesting to me, but I'm just like so emotional. I'm just gonna throw that out there. Like, and I think that kind of like shows through in the way I write music and the way I make music. Is I'm just like, how do I feel right now? But that's kind of sucks and hinders me, because on days where I'm not feeling like, stoked about my creativity, I'm not going to be able to do anything musical.
Yeah.
And it changes like hour to hour. Like yesterday at like 2 p.m. I was like, oh, I have this idea, I'm going to go home. And then like at 6 p.m. when I was done working, I got home and sat down and I was like, this isn't going to work,
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, I usually start with synths, mostly pads. And lately there has usually been an ADM pad layered with another synth. So thank you for those patches.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard anything in the demo. It's like, oh, I think that's my pad, but yeah, it's hard.
I've done too many sounds to recognize anything. I think like it's hard to pick them out, because like you're probably turning knobs too. You're playing different chords, different notes, and I mean, it's not long before who knows.
Yeah, you know what sample pack or preset pack or whatever you want to call it, or synthesizer instrument you've made that I like really love is that Dream one.
Oh, cool. Dream
It's
Keys.
been awesome. Yeah, it just like works with what I make, and it's just like I always find something to put somewhere.
Well, you got a dreamy sound. I mean, you're doing like a lot of memories, like you said, and emotions, and there's this like fog over it, like like a memory has. So I could see that working well.
Yeah, it's cool. But yeah, process is interesting. I'm always trying to like fine tune it, and I need to. One thing I'm really working on, and I think if you ever do another like, you did that like tip series, the videos that were like little tips,
Yeah.
I took a notes on that. I struggle with like structure, and I don't know if that's probably pretty normal.
Yeah.
I'm not from like a rock and roll background where it's like, all right, here we go, like here's the chorus, 1, 2, 3, 4. So structure is something that I've been really trying to work on. But it doesn't matter all that much, because people will say like, oh, well, you don't have to structure it a certain way. But if you don't structure it the way you're going to sing it, then you have issues,
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, structure is weird, because it can be really formulaic.
Yeah.
It could be like, Yeah, I mean, like a lot of songs are really predictable, and they have like every 16 bars, this happens, that happens, and then you're done. I'll tell you what my plan is. I haven't done yet. I want to do kind of like I need some time for it, like a little research period where I want to pick a slew of songs that have like cool arrangements. And I thought of this one night where my wife had a bunch of her friends over, and they were all dancing in the living room, and like they were listening to like a bunch of Madonna from the 80s. Yeah. And I was like, these songs are just so good and they flow. I'm like, the wheel has been invented here. Like the arrangement, the order of the song is perfect. Like it just works so well. I mean, what I want to do is in Ableton Live, and maybe someone will start doing this too. We can make it a whole big community project or something. But to take like a MIDI track, right, and go into the arrangement view, so you're in the like horizontal timeline kind of thing, and put in your Madonna song, right? Get into the groove. It's one of the ones in particular, and make a MIDI clip that lasts as long as like the intro, that lasts as long, another one that's as long as the verse, another one that's whatever sections there are.
Yeah.
And just sort of like mark it up. Like, okay, this is that part where the bass came in here. I noticed like another hi-hat thing came in. And just really like write it out in like generic terms.
Right.
And then inside Live, what you can do in your library is just store these MIDI tracks. And then like anytime you want to write a track, just drag one in and use that as like the guidelines. You know, I've done that with markers for songs before, but I like the idea of MIDI clips just because I can color code them. I can have it there. And the other thing I'm thinking about, and I got to play with it more, I think it's capable of this, but Elephant put out recently a notepad for Max for Live.
Thing's so sick.
Have you used the automation with it at all? Because I know there's like, it responds to automation.
Yeah, I had V1 and I used it a ton, and then I haven't really dove into it in the last few weeks since you put out the update.
Yeah, so what I want to do is each time a clip changes, it automates the note, right? And then it'll say like, okay, bass drops in, synth lead comes in, vocals drop out, whatever, you know, just
that you have on the wall.
Yeah, like a whiteboard that says, okay, in this part of the song, just to like force myself to get things done faster, and like experiment with forms of songs that are tried and trusted. So I could think it'd be awesome if I had like a bank of like, you know, I don't know, like 100 of these tracks, these MIDI tracks that are just songs with cool arrangements, and just
I think that's awesome.
You know, I'm not really, I'm like sampling the arrangement, you know, I'm not really taking the music. It wouldn't sound like it, but you know, it'll just flow in that way. I think it's
more of like a case study. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I want to do. I'm a big fan of early Weezer, Rivers Cuomo, like the early stuff, first few albums. Like that's some of the music that made me realize the kind of music I liked. It like, you know, I'd already been playing guitar, and like I remember just hearing that Blue album. I was just like, wow. You know, this clicks. I was like, I don't know, what it was like 14 or 15. And, you know, I just related to that, like, you know, not being able to get the girl thing, and, you know, and it just like clicked. And I just think, where was I going with this? I totally lost my train of thought. But
the arrangement, early Weezer.
Well, yeah, it's just like, it's there, you know, and to be able to like pull it out. Oh, I know why I brought up Weezer, because Rivers Cuomo had an episode, a podcast, I think it was Song Exploder, that podcast Song Exploder.
So much.
And he talks about like he's so mathematical and about the way he like has spreadsheets, you know, with like chord progressions and lyric ideas, and it sounds borderline like obsessive compulsive, you know, but it's just such a smart creative tool to just be able to draw from and be like, okay, you know. So he like, one of the things he spoke about was, I think he talked about that song, Walk Away Renee, Don't Walk Away Renee. It's an old tune, you know, probably 60s. I don't even know who did it, but he took the chords, you know, wrote them out, and then he puts it away. And he forgets what song it is, and then he can just go back to it and play those chords, and that way you're not like really ripping off the song, and you don't just sing the same melody. You play a different rhythm. You're just using that structure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hey everyone, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Splice, the creative hub for the modern musician. Splice has a great community for backing up your DAW files and sharing them with others. They've got Splice Sounds, which is 2 million premium royalty-free samples and loops and presets that you can download and curate your own packs with. And there's also rent-to-own plugins, so you can pay small monthly fees for plugins until you own them outright. You can pause it at any time. It's a great way to just use the plugin when you need it and pay for it only when you need it, and eventually you'll own it. If you head over to splice.com/AfroDJMac-create, you can get involved in all of this stuff. And if you use the code AfroDJMac, you can get a free month of Splice Sounds.
Sometimes I get this thing where if I record a vocal melody with the actual lyrics that I'm writing and I listen to it too many times, it's like stuck in my head that way. And I can't sing those lyrics. It happened on the song Dream that I sent you, one of the demos. And I can't sing those lyrics, like other than how I sang them on my first demo with vocals, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, you have like the demoitis thing going on, I guess.
So now just horrible. So now I started just like singing placeholder vocals that are like really clearly placeholder, like words that I'm like, this is a verse, you know, like
Oh, okay.
because I don't know, I've searched it on Reddit a ton and like just seen if I'm the only one, but yeah, I'm trying to avoid that because sometimes I'll like ruin a really good idea that I liked because I don't want to sing it that way, but it's like stuck in my head that way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but
I think you're the only one, man.
gotta go.
No, that's like I can't even tell you how many times I've recorded a demo of a song. I'm like, oh, this song's great. You know, it's really cool. Maybe it's even on just like a cassette tape. It's just a live performance with a friend.
Yeah.
And I can't get it, no matter how I record it, I can't get it to be better than that. That happened to Bruce Springsteen on, I don't know if you like Bruce Springsteen, but his album Nebraska.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like pretty much all acoustic, harmonica. And I love that record. Of all the ones I know, that's my favorite. But turns out, like, he recorded all that, I believe, on like a Tascam 8-track cassette recorder, maybe reel. I don't know, I forget. But he had all these demos, and he brought them into the studio, and they just couldn't make them have the same like soul as those recordings had, and they wound up releasing his demos as the album.
No.
Yeah, because they just sometimes the performance is just so good, and just even though like it's not, I mean it's a pretty good recorded album as far as like an 8-track would go, but you know it doesn't sound like they were in like the best studio in the world and you know all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That's so cool, man.
But I get that a lot where like I just kind of can't reproduce the energy, or I can't capture it again, or like you said, you get stuck in like an idea.
Yeah, I hate that.
I do a lot of my lyrics these days by just singing gibberish, almost like scatting or something. But I'll
What if it really was scat though? You're like
it's almost like that. It's just yeah, it's just gibberish. Like I'll turn on the speakers and I'll get it pumping so I'm feeling it. But what I'm actually doing is I'm figuring out the rhythms of the lyrics, the melodies. I'm figuring out like the consonant vowels like relationship, you know, like all right, I need like kind of hard sounds here, and this is a long held out vowel sound. And in the midst of doing that, I'll often like say something that I'm like, oh, that's a cool line, and then the song kind of grows around it.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, it's it's cool in that it lets the song kind of happen organically. It's not cool in that sometimes you never finalize anything.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's the other issue is like you just kind of ramble on forever and you never really settle on anything. So it's almost like the opposite problem where I have 14 different ideas for the verse of this song. So I'll just do a different one every time I play out.
I kind of do that too, actually, because these songs are all demos. And so like this last Sunday I played pretty much a similar set to this Sunday. And I'll probably add one song, but like the vocals will probably be different in like 4 songs. You know what I mean? Because I'm just like, all right, this one seems right.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And it's really something that got me into like the Ableton Live session view workflow, because you can be free and non-committal about like arrangements and melodies and stuff. But I'm noticing too, it's also kind of the other edge of the sword thing. You know, it's the problem too that since I'm not needing to commit, I don't, which is where this idea of these MIDI tracks that have clips that indicate for me, they're just visual clips so I can know where to make my changes. Because I'm finding like to get stuff done, I need to get into the arrangement view, the timeline sooner.
Yeah, I've been trying to write songs even from scratch in the arrangement view, because I got in this thing where I was taking songs from Ableton, clip launch view, session view to the stage. So I never even committed them to the point of arrangement view, and they just had total problems, you know.
I do
So
all my stuff out of Session View Live. I
yeah,
don't. Yeah, I
but
don't
like
put anything in arrangement.
I take it, put it in arrangement view, visually get it going like structurally, and then I uh, highlight to a certain point and capture it to a new scene.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
kind of bounce from
Back and
session to
forth a little.
back to session. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's a cool workflow too. I mean, they're all it's all neat ways to work.
Well, before I did that, I was having issues with session. I can't remember session view in the clips.
Clips, yeah.
My reverb style, like delayed tracks, not tailing off right when it launched to a new scene.
Yes, yeah.
When I capture it, then it keeps all the tails from arrangement view. When it goes to the next, it flows way better.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. That can be like another problem. Every sound ends at the end of the bar, and the sound starts at the beginning. Yeah.
it'd be great for like EDM that's like straight house music with not a lot of, you know, ethereal feelings. But I was like, why does this sound so dry in my first few live shows? Because I played my first divorce chord show a year ago this week, actually.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. I wish I could see that now and be like, wow, the Ableton project and the live performance was so. I don't think I played any of those songs this time. Like all those songs are now just in the trash or in the archive, I like to call it.
There you go.
You know, I don't ever throw things away, but I have an archive folder.
I have a graveyard.
Is that what you call it?
I have the graveyard of unfinished ideas.
Same.
It's probably the largest folder on my computer.
Horrible.
I know it's kind of embarrassing.
But I feel like the longer it goes, the better. Like I used to think, I think in the beginning, and like I said, I haven't been doing this as long as some, so I'm not super experienced. But before it was like I'd get one good idea out of like maybe 100 tries, you know. And I think I've cut that in half or more, like maybe one out of every 40 times I sit down. And that sounds really daunting to people listening, but I think it's getting better as time goes on because I know what I want to do and I'm not just blindly experimenting.
Right. Well, yeah, and if you have the discipline to be that consistent, if you're doing it every day, say, you know, then 1 out of 40 is like, you know, track a little over every month, which ain't bad.
I guess that's not bad if I could just figure out how to finish stuff and commit a vocal and just mix and master and put it out. Because of the demos I sent you, scary to send those demos because they're not done and I don't know how they sound, but
they sounded really cool. I enjoyed them. I listened to them today on my way to work. Yeah, nice stuff, cool ideas, and it was like a pleasant soundtrack to the drive.
Oh, that's good.
You
that's
know,
good.
and I'll tell you what, like as a listener, I don't know what finished is to you. You know, so to me, like I just accept them as they are. You know, that's the weird thing about producing music too, is like you don't get to hear it for the first time ever. You know, you're always hearing it piece by piece. So I think a lot of times when people hear your music, they just assume it's done. They assume it is that's how it's supposed to be. Unless you have like some weird, obvious mistake, you know, that it cuts off suddenly, or you know, you didn't export your reverb tails.
Well, there is one in there that like has a new keyboard idea, but it's like the pad is like 5 times louder, and it comes in at the wrong time. I was like listening to it yesterday after I sent it to you. I was like, oh well, whatever, you know. But yeah, it's I think it's all perspective. Like with anybody making music or anybody in our field, it's like you're always better than you were yesterday, you know. Like I'm a fan of Casey Neistat, you know, and I think he's a cool dude, and I actually do like video and film for my job. Like that's my day job, so I'm an editor. And so, but he said something like, you know, I'm not a YouTuber, nor do I have subscribers, but I think this applies to anything, but like your first 100 subscribers is harder than your next 100. You know, when you get to 1,000 subscribers, that's harder than 10,000. Like it gets easier as you push along. And I think that's super true. Like even if you sit down and have a bad session where you didn't get anything last night, where I just got up and I was like, yeah, but I know I learned something and I'll be better for it tonight or tomorrow. So
Right.
I don't know, trying to gain perspective.
I think there's a lot of truth to that for sure. Yeah, like I mean, you're starting from nothing in the beginning, so to get past nothing is hard. It's totally uncharted territory. At least once you have a little bit of movement, you say, okay, this is how this goes. This is how we
It's
do
like
things.
if you think about like the first month that you had your website,
Yeah.
or that we had our blog, it's like you get like one purchase or one view and you're like, yeah, sweet,
Yeah.
Crazy to think about how things change as time goes on.
Yeah, totally. And luckily, I always found any sort of person looking at anything of mine, listening to any music or anything, as like, oh my God, someone actually took the time to do that, So that was enough to make me want to do more.
Yeah,
just keep working.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's really important to like let the actual like practice of it, the work of it, be its own reward too. Like just the fact that you, like you said, to try to get a little better every day is, that adds up. That's something you might not see tomorrow morning or the next day or a week later, but like you were kind of saying, you've been doing your live show for a year. I'm sure if you were to look back, you'd be like, oh my God, look at that. Like you're not even playing any of those songs anymore.
Yeah.
That was your whole show a year ago. You totally turned it over.
It is weird.
I noticed in your shows you got like some videos going. Some it look like home movies or something.
Yeah. So when I can do visuals, I made this. So I have the archive footage of like all my parents' VHS footage growing up, and I made like a 40-minute visuals file, but it's like layered with other analog textures, like weird wavy, like blue and green and different looks, and it's kind of cool. Like some people get so much more lost in the show, and I look out in the crowd and they're not even looking at me, but they're just looking at the visuals.
Yeah.
And I know they hear what I'm doing and they're looking at the visuals, and I think it's a really cool experience.
Yeah, they're I guess that layering too adds to that. That's the theme you got going, which is kind of nice. You've really got it like the full picture where you're doing this memory thing, right? And now it's like home movies, and you've also like kind of like blurred them out then with like the other textures going on, which I think sometimes like it's more fun to look at something when you can't quite see it all the way. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like what I like about, I guess, lo-fi music too, is you kind of hear it, but you're also, there's a little mystery to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of stuff to your own interpretation too, like sometimes with certain parts you can kind of make them somewhat what you want in a way, and I think I like that. And the nice thing too is like the visual and the sound, like they're all real to me, and they're all like based on real things that happened to me. And
right,
like I said, I'm too emotional. Like my wife will tell you, I'm just an emotional person. So like they're all just like directly tied to something. And so when you see kind of where it all comes from, I think it's pretty cool. And down the road, it'll probably change, and I'll get more creative, or time or budget will change, and I'll do bigger visuals. But I like this visual. I think it's cool because it's just my childhood,
Yeah, there's a vulnerability to that too. That
it's that same vulnerability of just like putting a song up though, like it's so like every time someone puts up a song or even like a YouTube tutorial, like you have to be okay with being scrutinized and be okay with some people being like, man, you're ugly or your voice is bad, it's like, well, right. I don't know what to say to that, but thank you.
Right. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
I hear that, and to be like, this is me when I'm 7, like that's just it. Like no hiding.
Yeah.
That like that's a real feeling though, and you definitely get it from other people. Like they show up once in a while, and like say something to you, or I don't have too much of a problem with that. Once in a while, but
Yeah, you have a pretty cool audience, I think, because they're coming to learn. Like when we search something.
yeah.
So,
I get so much more positive stuff back from people, which is so cool. I love that. Most of the negative stuff I have run into comes out of my own head. Very often I'll put something up and I just, it's late at night and I start thinking, I'm like, oh, why would I say that? Or just little things. I should have fixed that. I didn't. I just put it out anyway. And, like you just question yourself. You like, I mean, I have this like, definite case of imposter syndrome. And
yeah.
I don't even remember who said this, but I heard it on a podcast. Someone said like, if you don't have it, you're probably an asshole.
But there are people who are creative and I look at them like, how are you so damn confident? Like, I don't understand. You just don't doubt it. And it's just like, man, but maybe
I doubt it on a lot of levels. I doubt it a lot in my real job as like a high school English teacher. Like sometimes it hits me like the incredible responsibility of having all these impressionable young people hear things I say every day. And sometimes I'm in there and I'm just saying things and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, is this worth anything to them? And like, why did I just tell them that story about my life? And with the music stuff, it's the same thing. There's a lot of time I spend in that place, and it takes a conscious effort to say, hey man, you're doing it again. Chill out, let it go. Who cares? And don't worry about it. Whatever. At this point in like my path here, especially with like a YouTube video, say, there's so many of them out there now that I can like kind of just say, it's probably just lost in the sea of other garbage you put out there anyway. and like a podcast, it's like, if anyone thinks I'm a loser at hour 1.5 of my podcast, then what were they listening to it for anyway?
Yeah, if people are still listening right now, then like they know who we are. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
They're still on board. But no, I see that too with like you said that with YouTube and how much content is uploaded all the time. I think about that too with music because one of our like fun projects we do is kind of like a Instagram label / music blog called lately.fm. And like we'll find multiple new tracks every single day that are just amazing. And I start to think like, man, like people are making so much music now.
Yeah.
How will my stuff ever get listened to? And like that's not why you create music, but it does feel good when people are listening to your music.
Yeah, well, you are recording it, right? Like,
yeah, you're
if
taking
you
the
didn't
time
care at all, you'd just be jamming, right?
Didn't care, yeah. You wouldn't take the time to like.
There's a certain like pretentiousness to recording a song.
I thought about that too, actually. Like, am I more pretentious than I think because I took the time to pay to put this up on platforms?
Yeah, you paid money.
Why do you do that?
I don't care what no one thinks. But
yeah, I don't care what anyone thinks.
Put a lot of money into this.
But I'm playing this show for free, hoping that people like me. I don't care.
Yeah.
No, it's weird, but there's just so much good music out. It's crazy.
I hear that, and sometimes it works for me both ways. Where it's like, what am I even doing this for? There's so much stuff going on, but it also makes me like less worried about being self-conscious about it and doubting myself, because it can also just be like, there's so much stuff, no one will ever hear it. It's a raindrop in the ocean.
That's true. It's like the story. You can pick like the humble side or like the other side.
Yeah, I definitely just bounce right back and forth between the two like a ping pong ball or something. But that's real stuff, that's to try to get around that, and it's always a battle. I've never really felt it go away where I'm just totally cool with everything I do. Every time I do something, I'm like, the real fight is like to not be so critical and to not be so judgmental of yourself and
Yeah.
just let yourself do something without all the other stuff that goes along with it, and to just enjoy it. It can be to the point where you just don't even enjoy it because you're so worried about
Yeah,
it.
it's worse when you're playing with all of this like it should be probably like the funnest thing you could possibly do, right? You're just making noises and like
Yeah.
playing with toys basically, like but sometimes you catch yourself and you're just like so unhappy in that moment because you're like, ah, this isn't very good. But then you have to think like, man, I get to create this, and I'm so lucky that I even know how and that I had the desire to learn, because so many people want to make music, but it's just like a certain desire that you have to go through all the mud to like learn how,
Hmm.
because that part's not as rewarding as like all the learning
Yeah.
from day one. It's not as rewarding. It's fun, but then you're just looking at the long hill ahead, But
Yeah. It's impaired my judgment to enjoy, say, like going to see a band play sometimes, where I'm just like, I want to be doing music.
me
I wish
too.
I was playing, and
Or I think like I'm wasting time. I need to get home right now and work on music.
yeah.
Enjoy it. That's how it's the same with because I edit video, right, for a living, and I'll watch a movie and there'll be like a bad two cut or like a bad over the shoulder cut, and you can see like the person's mouth moving to a different line, and
Uh-huh.
I'm just that's so annoying.
Yeah.
And it's so stupid. It's not. It's just like maybe that's the only take they had. Why am I even?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's hard. Yeah, just enjoy the movie.
Yeah, they might have been like saving that scene with that one shot.
I know.
Might have been a
It's true.
genius move.
Yeah, seriously. Some editor like spent 3 days making this thing work. And I'm over here like, oh, her lips were saying something else.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah. It's definitely, there's a little bit of a curse, to the being on the creative end of any of this stuff. I mean, from the day I started playing guitar as a kid, like I never heard music again the same way. It was, as much as it made me really listen differently and enjoy it on a new level, it also kind of took a little bit of the magic out of it, I think, on some level, in
Yeah.
that like you understand, like it happens a lot, like if I'm being usually critical and probably in a bad mood, but like where you're like, well, I know that chord progression, it's you
Yes.
see, and like, that's no way to listen and enjoy it. That's not the point.
It's not the point.
It's and that's the funny thing too, is I'll make music and I realize the point of me doing this is I'm trying to be clever, and it's like, that's stupid. It's like, it's not a good motivation, I guess. I mean, I think it's cool to push boundaries and try new things and do interesting things with music, but sometimes I find myself trying to do it just to do it without like the actual music listening part of it being a consideration.
I don't even know if I've ever actually asked myself like, why do I do this? Like, why do I make music? That's like a really hard question to answer.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it'd probably be a more peaceful existence on some levels anyway if I didn't.
And you'd have so much free time,
But
like
but it is such a release too, I'd probably have a lot more pent up garbage in me,
yeah.
if I didn't have that to get out, as an avenue to get it out.
And there is like this feeling that I don't think I can replicate anywhere else when I am trying to create a sound that makes me feel a certain way and I get that sound.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to explain the feeling, but it's not like a satisfactory, like, oh, I'm so sad. It's more like that like connection. Like when you hear a song, and it happened to me a lot more, like you said, before I started making music or when I was a teenager, but you hear a song and it like almost gives you chills.
Mm.
That's like what I can think of a song in particular, and it's kind of weird. I don't know why this song. Maybe it's because it was in this like really cool snowboard movie, but the first time it ever happened to me, I was listening to this. I was watching this old snowboard movie, and this song, "Let Go" by Frou Frou came on.
Okay. I don't know it. No.
It's pretty. Her voice is beautiful, but like once her voice came in, I was like probably 15, and it was like 11 p.m. and I was watching this snowboard movie alone in my parents' house, and I was going the next morning, and I was all excited.
Oh
You know how
no.
you get excited for stuff as like a teenager.
You were going snowboarding the next day?
Yeah, yeah, because
Okay.
me and my cousin were just like obsessed with snowboarding in high school, and this song just like made me almost emotional. Like just it was just so good.
Hmm.
And that's like this moment where I was like, man, like this is way more of a powerful thing than I ever even thought, you know.
Yeah.
That's
Eh,
kind of how I feel when I get this like sound, like whether I'm playing like a pad or like a sequence on a lead or like I don't know, like a drum hits a certain time as like a bass and I get that same feeling. And maybe I don't know. I never thought about it before. Maybe that's why I do it.
hmm. Well, I think there's a lot to be said about the setting when you're listening to music, where that's a cool time too for you. You know,
Yeah.
you're a teenager, it's late at
I'm a
night in your
freshman,
room.
you said, nothing else matters. You're just a freshman in high school and like this is
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you're going snowboarding the next day. There's all that energy, and then that song strikes you. You were like primed, you know, for something. And you might have heard the same song, you know, at the supermarket, and it didn't matter.
That's so weird. Yeah, it is
um,
true. You see a really great scene in a movie and like that song is just with you forever, you know.
yeah, you know, I can remember being like a kid and like songs I liked were in movies or something like that, or a TV show, and like it got popular and like being all like, it's you only like that because it's
Pretentious.
in the movie. Yeah, you get that attitude, but I think you know that setup is a big part of what sometimes makes a song great. And I've definitely had that in my life where I've known a song, heard it, but then it comes on in this context. Something's going on. Maybe it's a movie, maybe it's a show, maybe it's after something happened to me. And then it takes on like this different level.
Yeah, totally.
And I don't know, it might be like why a lot of that music at they say like for a lot of people, like your musical tastes kind of cement a little bit in your teenage years.
See, that's the weirdest thing is like I know friends who I think of or family members whose music taste hasn't changed since then. But I look back at some of that stuff that I was listening to and I listen to it again now and it's just like not the same. My brother and I were texting about this like 6 days ago. I was just like he was like, "Listening to this album, I just thought of you." And I was like, "Is it still good?" With like a question mark, you know? And he was like, "Yeah, I feel that way too, but this one is still good, but lately I've been listening to some of my old stuff and it's just like not I don't it doesn't resonate with me anymore."
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, there's so much more to it than just the song, you know.
Yeah.
It's like and it's kind of what you said about like your visuals, I think that you bring your own baggage, you know, your own interpretations come out
Yeah.
because of your experience and how you see the world and how that particular song strikes you is
Yeah.
different for every person.
Yeah, totally. I know I was like it's always kind of a surprise when someone's like, "I like this song," or for you maybe like, "I love this specific sample pack," because you're like, "Oh, I didn't even think anyone would ever like think about it that way." Right? When
Hmm.
I made it, I wasn't like, "Oh, people are gonna like love this." You know what I mean? You just it's always a surprise on what personally impacts other people.
Yeah, it is. And I've definitely had that experience where it's kind of like, huh, that one, huh?
Yeah.
That song was the one you enjoyed the most tonight? Like, okay,
Thank you.
that's cool. You know,
Yeah.
I almost didn't play it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. What is your I don't think I got to ask you what your live setup is like gear wise. Like what kind of stuff are you using?
Yeah, so, before Divorce Court, I was in this, two-piece band with a friend called Soft Blonde,
Uh-huh.
and we have 2 singles that we put up on they're still living on Spotify, but we might do more later, but at that time, it was just, a 404 and a Roland Juno 106,
That's
um,
the 404, just remind me, that's like the sampler, right?
Roland sampler. We were
Yeah.
using it for, like, backtrack because he was playing guitar and singing, um, and that was kind of when I was still using Bitwig Studio,
Uh-huh.
uh and that was fine, but I didn't feel like it was functional enough for me. But now it's just Ableton Live, Push 2, which I love, and like 2 MIDI controllers that I mapped. I have like the LPD8, like little wireless Akai.
Is that the one with the pads and knobs?
Yeah, it's like Bluetooth. It's pretty cool.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's
So
battery
I
powered.
had the old one for a little
Yeah,
while.
yeah, it's pretty
I
cool.
think I let someone have it. I wasn't really
And
using it.
then I can't figure out. So I was using Roland, the JU06, the little digital version of the Roland 106, the toy Roland.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I sold my 106, which is a major regret. But I just had a kid, and I was just like, hey, this is like worth good money, you know. It was a 106 that I was in like perfect condition, but now I have your Roland patches, so I'm like, whatever. But yeah, the JU06 I was using, I was sending MIDI to that live. And I was like, this is fine, but it's just like you said, it's just kind of like overkill. Like I don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But I started to focus more on my vocal, and I went through a couple vocal pedals, and I landed on this like older Boss vocal pedal, which I've actually had a couple other artists using as well. Sorry, I'll come back. So I landed on this Boss vocal pedal. It's the VE20 vocal processor, just the vocal performer. And it's pretty simple, but it just has like the best reverb for me for like my genre.
Yeah.
And at first I was using like this pitch correction vocal pedal with reverb and delay. And I realized like pitch correction was just messing me up more live than it was helping me. I feel like the vocal pedal market for live shows is actually kind of poor. After I've done a ton of research.
I've never gone too far into that world. I've never had a vocal pedal, like one for vocals. All my vocals I just process in live.
Yeah, and I was worried. I guess I could do it now, but I was worried with latency issues because I had an older computer. Now I have a newer computer. Maybe I'll do that. That's why I emailed you a couple months ago about that auto-tune. Remember I was emailing you about your live performance. I couldn't find like the auto-tune setting.
I'm using Nectar 2 by Isotope. And to speak of latency, they have a tracking mode. So there's like mixing mode and tracking mode. And I guess the way tracking mode works is it's maybe like not the same quality as mixing mode, but it's lower latency.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So
how do you?
It's not really much.
Like, let's say you're playing out to open for someone at a venue, and how do you manage sending your vocal through Ableton? You have your own DI that you send out so they can mix it separately. Like, how do you manage that?
So I have everything going through live. So I have an interface right now. I used to use a Motu Ultralight, which I loved. I had the Ultralight 2, but it stopped working, and now that antiquated Firewire, and then I've got like the USB-C Mac that you need a dongle for everything.
I've been playing with this while we're talking. I just have so many dongles.
I saw you dingling your dongle there for a minute. But I think I got a Scarlett, one of those Focusrite Scarletts, which I like a lot. So yeah, I run the vocals through my microphone through the interface. The OP1 also goes in the interface.
So jealous.
And I send just to the mixer. It's 2 XLR cables. That's it.
Yeah. I'm so hesitant. So I send everything out of the Focusrite to the house, and then do vocals separately through the pedal. And I'm just always so worried like about how the vocal would sound if I was doing it myself, Yeah. But I know I could get like a super expensive proper live interface where I could drums to 1 and 2 and synths to 3 and 4 and vocal. I mean, if I really wanted to go big, but
yeah, you know what? I don't really want anyone else to have that kind of control over it for me. I like that because I'm always adjusting the volumes on my drums, and I'm changing things as I go too. So I have, the APC-40s doing I use the 8 tracks of the APC-40. It's 8 faders, so that controls any sound I have. So I have control over the mix.
Oh yeah, because you said you only use 8 tracks max.
As far as like backing tracks with clips, it's 8. It's really 7 actually, because I use the 8th track to like resample my voice if I want.
What if you have a song that you're bouncing out that's like 15 tracks. You just bounce them as a group.
Yeah, that's usually what I'll do. I'll take maybe like if there's like noises and effects, sounds, those will go all on one track. But a lot of the songs that I play live, I write within the live project.
No way.
Yeah. So like they're kind of designed with the performance in mind.
And then if you need to like put them in, if you wanted to release them, you'd have to copy them out to a new project and kind of start there.
Or perform them. Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm a kind of like a backwards guy where a lot of people write their songs and then perform them and like, then process them for performance. But I'm like writing them for the performance. And for that reason, I have a whole bunch of songs that are, finished songs, but only when I play them live. Like I don't have a like actual version of them, which is the commitment thing I'm talking about.
Live show though, that means your live show is just awesome because we're all trying to like set up our sets for the live show, but you're thinking about the live show, which is pretty cool.
Well, it's because where I play, like I'm in my basement where I play, I've got PA speakers going. So I'm like jamming on these songs and like to work them out, to like write them. And I like that way of working a lot because, like we were kind of saying how when you hear a song has a big impact on how you write and how you feel it or how you feel it. And you were saying how when you, depending on like your emotional state or whether you're tired or whatever after work, it changes like your motivation and whether you're able to do things. And I find if I sit down every time to make music, I'm like making like tired or like more tired type music, laid back stuff. So I've got my live performance set up where I can stand. It's actually like a table that's like countertop height. So
that's cool. I have a desk here that I could raise up. I should do that because sometimes I come home from sitting all day at work and then I sit here and work till like midnight.
Yeah.
Just like switch it up and
then you can kind of like dance a little and move around.
Said that in a podcast just a few months ago about how like you can just get loose more and kind of feel the song more. Kind of
coming from like rock bands and stuff, like you're playing guitar, you're usually standing with a strap. And even if you're playing drums, you're moving, it's physical, you're sweating. And I miss that when I do like more electronic stuff. I really miss the physicality of banging on a drum, working up a sweat and moving around with my guitar. You don't get that when you're like, pushing your pads and turning little knobs. When I'm like able to stand and do it, then it's like a lot more of that old feeling.
Yeah.
And I find I can make more upbeat, like faster, more exciting music that way.
Yeah. Wow, that's good. That's good. That's a good thought. I'm going to do that.
I'll tell you what, when I got this table, Grundorf makes it. It's the name of the company.
Sounds like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I know. I love the name. That was a game changer, man. That was like you were saying before with like you thought you were going to get the gear that was going to change your life. This table honestly made a big difference for me because it did a couple things. I was able to stand up and like get my energy out, but it also gave me a finite space to work on. So kind of like where I told you I use 8 tracks on the APC 40 because there's 8 tracks. So that's what I just use. My table has only so much room, so I can only put on there what'll fit.
Yeah.
And that's limited me from like taking every MIDI controller I can find and all these little mini synths, and it's prevented me from doing that.
I remember watching your first live performance video, template video, like years ago when you did have long hair and a bun, because I thought you still had that. And you're wearing like those sunglasses and you're talking. Yeah, I think your microphone had like this colored thing on it too. It's pretty cool, like the cover on it.
I got one still. It's blue.
Yeah, the other one was like green or pink or something.
I bought like a pack for like $1.99 of like 15 of them. Just because playing live and using a mic, I've banged my teeth on the mic. That's the real reason I use it. For this mic, it helps with like the plosives and things like that. But Oh yeah, I'm like, especially like holding the mic and you're getting into it,
Yeah. Yeah.
smash my teeth, and I'm like, if I keep playing, it's just a matter of time before I bust one of my teeth doing this. So it's for cushion purposes.
That's good. It's a safety measure.
Yeah,
That's funny. But I remember watching that video and you went through like every single one. And I was like, man, he's got like so many things mapped right now with so many controllers. Back then you had way more controllers, you know? And I was like, if I could only get to that level of like pre-planning and knowledge, I'll be a god, you know?
sometimes, like I said earlier, you realize what you need and what you don't need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do I need this effect if I'm only going to use it like once? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I can like scratch that and
Totally
be more productive as a result.
That's kind of where I was with that little Roland. I was like, well, I'm only sending MIDI on like 2 of my 8 songs live.
Yeah.
I don't really need it there. It's a cool thing, but I've been using on my left 2 channels on my live setup in Ableton. I have my favorite analog patch from Elephant.
Mm-hmm.
He has that analog.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, those patches are amazing.
Yeah, there's a whole collection.
Yeah, like I think it's Astra Pad. It's just like this really beautiful pad that like I think 2 of my songs start with a tweaked version of that with like his tape on there. But I have the left 2 channels as like 2 of his instruments, so I can just do it on the push instead of having this other piece of gear that I have to route at the show, like which MIDI is going where. And my setups, because I'm opening for people right now a lot, are like 10 minutes to be all set up,
Right.
So yeah.
I kind of have it so I can put everything on my table and then just carry the table to wherever I'm playing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just give the engineer, the sound guy, front of house, give them 2 XLRs, plug in an electric cord somewhere, and I'm good to go.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I really would love it if I had like a travel case that fit nicely that I could just open up and everything's set up. But
I have like a DJ case. It has like a top thing that like slides open to where I put my laptop. Mm-hmm. It's pretty nice. It's small and I don't need a lot more room.
Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah.
Might be going down that road one day.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. I think those are all good considerations to have because this is not like plugging in your guitar into an amplifier like I'm used to. There's a lot of things you got to connect, and it's easy to make a mistake. And it's truthfully, like I've kind of like made part of my rehearsing like breaking my gear down and putting it back together.
Yeah, my last 3 shows I've forgotten something.
Yeah, and it's so easy to forget things.
The way I learned that the push 2 could operate off of power was that I forgot. No. I told you that, remember, in that comment on Instagram? I was like, it does power, but
it's light. Yeah.
But this artist that played before me was like, dude, you can use it. It's just not as bright. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah. I think like officially they don't recommend it.
Okay, but, to know.
But it does work, but pretty dull. Yeah.
It's so bright though. It's so nice with that power in there. I love it. It's my favorite piece of gear. I told someone the other day that you could take everything away in my studio, and if I just had like my laptop and my push, I'd be fine.
Yeah, I'm a big fan too. The layout is very similar to guitar for me. Where the intervals, especially when you go chromatic and you're not in key, it looks like a guitar to me. So like I get it, I see it, and it feels kind of natural. And even just moving my fingers up and down, I feel like I'm playing scales on the guitar.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's actually kind of helped me understand piano a little bit more too, in a weird. Like I have a little MIDI keyboard that I use too, because sometimes writing a different way helps with ideas. But I'm starting to look at the piano differently, or the synth differently now that I use the push so much. And something I did want to mention was that being said, with like the push and computer, no hardware thing, is like this year I kind of like sold all my synths and invested in more software because I travel a lot for work and I want to be able to just be creating when I can. And I'm just like such a huge fan of independent, I guess you'd call them like indie patch creators like you guys, like you and Elephant and Patches and Even someone that I came across recently because of your podcast was Reverb Machine. His stuff is really cool
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
And what's it called? Samples from Mars. His drum kits are just
Uh-huh.
insane.
Yeah,
But
it's got like the 909 on
oh,
September 9th. Yeah.
he posts videos of like really in his studio. I'm like, man, that guy has so much gear. But
Yeah, I got to get them on. That's a good
yeah,
make
he'd
a
be
note of that.
cool. I think it's fun. But I invested in more software since, and I've just been really enjoying like tweaking on the go, or like having an idea and being able to use it. Like I've been using a lot of UVI stuff.
Mhm.
Love their stuff so much. But yeah, it's a weird approach because I was always like, I need more synthesizers and more hardware, and it's cool and it's
Yeah,
sexy. You know, my
it's
wife
fun.
it's sexy, but they are like, you look at like a cool drum machine on the table and you're like, oh, it's so cool, but they're not always the most practical for every type of
Yeah.
person.
Yeah, I don't take any of the hardware out really. The OP1 is convenient, that's simple, and I'm not even using it for MIDI really for the most part. Sometimes I will for like the arpeggiator and things like that in there. But mostly I just use it to play melodies and do like kind of sound effects and
Dude, it's so cool. I can't believe how much more money it is. I wish I would have bought it like when it came out for $700.
oh, has it gone up? Is it
Like you can't get it on Reverb for under. Last time I checked, like under $1,100
oh,
now.
no way. Ooh.
That's crazy. Don't sell yours.
No, I never would. And if I lost it, I'd buy another one. I'd save
Yeah.
up and get a new one. The OP1 was like so controversial, especially when it first came out. Like, because it looks like a toy,
Oh,
But
yeah.
man, once I got my hands on it, it's not a toy. I mean, it's heavy. It's got like solid weight. It feels real. Um, and it people complain about the limitations of it because I'm can't do everything your DAW does, but it does a lot. It's got I don't even know how many synth engines now because they keep updating it, but it must have like 10 to 12 synth engines. It's got drum
They can
machines.
update it without like changing the hardware on it. They're just
They
throwing more.
constantly add like new synth engines, effects. I guess it's been a little while now, but they not too long ago they added an arpeggiator. So they like really from when I got it pretty shortly after it came out. Like it was like summer 2011, I think I got that thing. And it's much deeper now than it was.
Wow. I heard this story. I don't know how true this is, so maybe I shouldn't say it, but I thought it was cool. But I'm a huge fan of Bon Iver, like Justin Vernon stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wearing his T-shirt actually. It's one of my favorite shirts.
Cool.
There was a story of like him on this solo trip to Greece, like in between when Bon Iver was like a little quieter, and he just had the OP1 with him. He was kind of, I guess he was walking around like late at night alone, just kind of like hanging out, and he had it with him in his backpack, and he just thought of this line, and it was just like, it might be over soon. And he kind of recorded it right into the OP1. And apparently, like I said, this is rumors. Or maybe it was an interview. I don't remember.
Rumors or legend?
Yeah, true. It's a legend. Apparently, though, they just like tweaked it all on the OP1 and like used that clip on the opening track of the record when he's like, it might be over soon, It's so cool the way they like modulate that audio. But
what record is that? I'd like to give it a listen.
So that's the newest Bon Iver record, 22 a Million. Is that what it's called? Let me make sure. I mean, I think we're not really doing well at naming albums today.
I tell you what, I've gotten so much worse at keeping track of artists and albums. Sometimes I just to listen to music, I just put on like a playlist or you know, and it's funny, like it used to be like I always kept track. I knew who was in the bands, and I don't know, I don't do that as much anymore.
But yeah, listen to that opening track. It's one of the coolest, like production wise, like it's just so cool. And that story behind it, if it is true, and just knowing I know he uses the OP1 a lot because I've seen it in the live performance, but
yeah,
it's just like such an impressive piece of gear.
I love it for having that microphone. I've recorded, dozens of like acoustic songs with just my guitar right in there. And the 4-track is so cool on it because you get your 4 tracks, but unlike on a regular tape, when you record over a track on a regular tape, it erases it first and then it records. This just overdubs on the track. So you just layer things onto a track and you are stuck with it. There's no undo button. So you are stuck.
Right? What we were talking about is just committing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've screwed things up, but sometimes, whatever, it happens. But yeah, I love it. I've hooked microphones. I recorded an EP with it. Just plugging in an SM57 and I recorded the drums, bass, electric guitar, and sang. And it was one of the most satisfying recording experiences I've ever had. It's lo-fi, so it's a little sloppy at times, noisy, but I liked that. It was inspiring while I was doing it. And to just have the OP1 with my headphones plugged into it and a microphone plugged into it, and I'm just like moving the mic around the room and then picking it up, putting it down. It was just so fun to have like that kind of freedom with like a recording device. Just
totally. I kind of feel like I got that because I know it has that resampler, like you can sample radio and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that's like for me, like, oh my gosh, like having that with me at all times. But when Patches put out that article on how to hot stroke recording from your sound card.
Oh, like yeah. He made the automator thing, so you can just record off of like YouTube or whatever really quickly.
And then he shared that like frequency like radio site from Europe, and he was like, oh, like check this out too, it's really fun. And then it just like opened up my laptop now to be this like instant sampler. So like I'm always recording stuff, and it's the most amazing tip for me. It's like my favorite thing. But that track I sent you, honestly, on the intro, all that static and radio, that was from hot queuing that like European radio frequency site, and then like filtering it and stuff.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like that, having that on the OP1 is great. I mean, because it's just luck of the draw. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. And that's like the glory of it. You hear the sample and you're like, geez, I could have never dug for that. It had to just be this random discovery,
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I kind of like when the universe has a role in my music, when chance comes to play and you just get what you get.
My brother-in-law, who just got back from Burning Man, would call it synchronicity.
Yeah. Yeah, you can give it some like meaning if you want, And that's the fun of it. You're like, oh, this must have been destiny, It's the planets were aligned.
I love that like mentality. I'm like, yeah, dude. So we talk about it all the time. I'm like, dude, that's synchronicity, man. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun. I love it.
Yeah, like it is if you want it to be, right? It just
exactly. It's interpretation.
Yeah, that's cool. I liked that about the way you used it. It was just kind of like a little like layer underneath the music, but that's a really fun technique for me and something I'm exploring a lot right now. Actually, I just picked up a little Roland field recorder, the R-07.
Oh, sweet.
It's smaller than my iPhone. It's a little thicker, but it's smaller, and that's the big reason I got it. But it sounds great, and it's really fast to use. There's no like real menu diving. I mean, you can, but like if you want to record, it's just right there.
That's kind of hard. Like the H6N is just so the menus are hard.
I heard that. I was considering one of those Zooms, and some of them have like 4-track recording. I was like, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I went with this because I just knew like if I'm not gonna be able to carry it in my pocket, I'm not gonna really use it.
Totally.
So I'm having a lot of fun just seeing what I get recording wise, and then just like putting it in there, filtering it, playing around with it, reversing it or whatever. Yeah. And then it's like a little world in your music.
That's so cool. Yeah. I love that. Just layers. Like that's one reason that Paracosm record was so impressive and cool. It's just like, it starts with that, like, ethereal birds chirping. And
it has like a very nature vibe. Yeah.
And it was
outside.
Former record. So it was way different than his other record.
Oh yeah.
Nature heavy. And I love stuff like that.
Yeah. There's a cool, like, like kind of like life meets robot thing that happens when you do that with like drum machines and synths and nature sounds. It's fun. Yeah, maybe I'll put it out there now officially. But I want to do like a pack of just field recordings that people record. I did something a while back. I think I called it like environmental sounds or something, or sounds of the world. But where I'm gonna maybe you can record something for us in Salt Lake City. But
Yeah.
just I'm hoping like kind of to go with the synchronicity thing that we can just like send out like a tweet and hopefully enough people do it where wherever you are, just record whatever's going on right now. Just
Cool.
whatever you get and then send it to me and I'll put it together. And then we can all like share these field recordings. Because I love those. Like I don't do it enough, which is why I picked up the little Roland guy recently.
That's a good idea, man. Maybe I'll look into that. I just saw the new. I used to work for Apple, like at the Apple store, so I'm kind of like I watch like the release videos and stuff. But I just saw that their new phone. It's way too expensive, by the way. I don't know. That's crazy, but it has like a really good updated like true stereo microphone.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so we'll see how those because I've had some field recordings on my iPhone that were actually pretty good.
I used it a lot for that.
Yeah.
Some of my packs have sounds that are done on my iPhone. I think maybe the marimba one was that I just put out a marimba one. I was at school.
I just put that on one of my tracks. It's sick.
I think that's an iPhone sample, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow. That's cool.
And yeah, I've done a few where, I've got nothing else. It's either get the sample or don't.
Yeah,
And it's not bad. Sometimes I find that even like the crumminess of it makes it fit in my songs.
Oh yeah.
I think if you record everything with the same mic, like everything sounds the same and it blends in like a way that, in like a bad blend, where it just kind of mushes together.
Yeah.
But sometimes, just putting up a different mic or even a lousy mic, it brings a new character, a new dimension.
Yeah, that dude, Samples from Mars just posted an Instagram post like a few days ago or a week ago that was just like, he was holding this like mic I'd never seen or heard of. And he was like, some of my favorite mics are these like random condenser mics I find at thrift stores and on eBay that he's like, don't always go for the most expensive mic. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's nice to have a good mic, but, and a low variety is cool too if you're doing a lot of like recording. But I've definitely had situations where the crappy Radio Shack mic that I found is it just fits for some reason. It just works. It adds a color or something like that to my recording.
That's cool. It's true.
I think there's like a place for sounds, like for a long time I grew up like I had this Yamaha like keyboard, beginner thing with like 99 sounds and like the sample demo songs. And I always thought it sounds stupid, but I put it on a track once and it was called Distorted Guitar. It sounds nothing like that. It's just like that sound is more like what it sounds like than an actual guitar. And it just fit in the song so well. It was just like right there, it was better than the guitar part I played. It just worked. And it kind of made me realize like, if you can find it, there's a time and a place for like any sound, you gotta just know when and where.
Yeah, it's so true, man. I don't have any rules like that. Like if it sounds good to me and I'm not like a super, I don't think about like the technical part of audio. Yeah. I'm not like an audiophile. I'm just like, it sounds good to me. Like let's use it, So
the first album I ever made on my own, I had what I recorded that on, like it was an ADAT hard drive recorder. It was called like I think like the ADAT Alesis HD24, I believe it was called.
Wow.
And it had 2 hard drives you put into it. And the only screen was just like an LCD, like alarm clock looking screen,
Oh my God. That's cool.
Yeah, it was cool. At the time, it was like the coolest thing in the world. And I remember saying to myself, you know what? I'm not gonna worry about how well I record everything. I was like, I got this machine, like almost everything sounds good, good enough,
Yeah.
So I didn't stress that, and I made that. I remember sitting there making that conscious decision, and I got so much done as soon as I decided that. I just worried about playing the parts
Yeah.
and making the songs, and it still sounded good. It sounded way better than the cassette tape 4-track stuff that I had.
Yeah.
Although
It's
now I
almost
wish
like
I still had my cassette tape
I
4-track.
know, right? Jeez. We have too many options now,
Yeah,
I always try to limit myself because like I said, you see a piece of gear, you're like, oh man, I need that. Like I need that because I heard a few sounds from it, and it's like, do you need it though?
yeah, most likely you don't. I mean, if you have any DAW, you've got the bases covered.
And I've probably only cracked 10% to 20% of most of the DAWs. I mean, not DAWs, but BSTs that I own. Like, have
Yeah,
I really dove in under the hood of this Arturia DX7 as much as I could have?
right. DX7. They say that synth still hasn't been. They still haven't uncovered all the sounds that thing can make
It's crazy, man.
from
That
like
was,
the
I guess,
1982 or 3 or whatever it was.
yeah. I guess I was reading the Reverb Machines article on Tori Moi's Boo Boo album and
Mm,
how like DX7 was the basis for the whole record.
yeah,
And now to it, and I'm just like, man, he made it sound so nice.
he did. Yeah. Well, a
Sounds
lot of
full.
those patches are just piano.
I know, man, but they just sound so cool with the delays and like the way they mixed it. It's really cool.
Yeah. I wonder, like, how much of that stuff. I mean, for me, like, those are sounds I grew up with as a kid. Like in early '80s, and in the '90s, I remember hearing those sounds, and you thought they were cheesy, and
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
oh,
Like,
that's the sound from Doogie Howser's theme song, and it it had like this cheesiness to it, but now it's got the nostalgia.
yeah,
And I just wonder, like, as we move forward, like kids today, are they gonna still? I can't imagine it strikes them the same way. I guess really what's gonna hold up is the quality of the sound.
right. Yeah, it's gonna be different too because they see 100% more than like we saw or heard.
Yeah,
Like we were able to hang on to like lines of songs and certain movies, but they're not gonna remember the Netflix title that they saw when they were 12 on a Friday night. Like I remember Disney Channel original movies on Friday nights.
yeah. I wonder about that. I don't know. I guess time will tell.
Because like, were they even paying attention during the movie, or were they just on Instagram?
Yeah,
Because when I was watching like a movie, I was like into it because I had nothing else to do.
right. Yeah, you couldn't like be texting in the background or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it probably goes for all of us, right? Like,
yeah.
all like, somewhat distracted at all times.
Oh yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, one of the things I love about the podcast, it's just have a conversation and
I know I've actually
nothing
learned a lot, and I'm like, man, I learned a lot listening to it, but also being on it. It's like a lot of things I haven't really thought about.
Yeah, I'm finding too, like, just we really sort our thoughts out by talking. Just
Yeah,
I've learned a lot on the episodes I do by myself, even just because here I am, like, sorting out my thoughts and like, like figuring out like how I tick a little bit.
yeah,
So it's cool like that.
yeah. The episode you did on finishing, like trying to finish stuff, I'll go back and listen to it and be like, okay, I think I'm figuring this out.
Yeah, I could probably use a listen of that episode myself. Take my own advice.
You're like, man, this guy's really smart.
He must finish a lot of songs.
Oh man.
Oh boy. Well, listen, Lynden, it's really awesome talking to you, man. I've kept you a while. I'll let you go back to your world. Is there anything else you want to throw out there for anybody? Like, where's the best place for people to go? Like, what's the main spot you direct people to check out your stuff?
Yeah, my website's kind of just a placeholder. Like I feel like most people don't really, they just have a website because they have to. I think I did it on an app actually.
Oh yeah,
It's crazy.
it's got a cool look though.
Yeah, thanks. It's called Universe. It's like website building app where you pay like 99 cents a month. Yeah, thanks for telling me that link was broken, by the way. I fixed it. Probably my Spotify page is the easiest place to find the music. It's been in some playlists, which is nice because then it keeps the like everything rolling through like listens. And then just Instagram, just Divorce Court Music on Instagram. I've been messaging. I reach out to people and ask them questions, and kind of that's how I communicate a lot. And then my email, I don't know, just the Lately FM email. They're kind of like it's like my pseudo record label is Lately FM. So
Lately FM.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And for that's just lately.fm. And like I said, we just promote other people's music. Anyone listening has music, DM us, and yeah, it's fun. It's got that same like nostalgia, like video, lo-fi feel. So it's fun.
Nice. Yeah, and we'll put all that in the show notes too, so people can just click on it and get there. Yeah, so we'll get all that down. But yeah, I definitely think people should check out your music. It's good stuff, and it's got a cool vibe, you know, and it's fun like hearing you talk about it and how it's so inspired by your memories, because it has sort of like a foggy memory feeling, you know. That's something I really like about it. There's a nostalgia. There's like it's hard to put your finger on. But it's something I'm really into, and I guess, you know, like we said, it leaves it open to interpretation in a lot of different ways. But you got like a cool like package where it's like your home videos and then like these like memories that are inspiring the songs.
Thank you, man. Yeah. So I have 2 singles out. Like I said earlier, I'm trying to finish this 4 to 6 track EP. Maybe I'll just take your advice and just put it out, because no one will know except me if it's.
It sounds cool. You know, obviously we are our own worst critics sometimes, but it was a very enjoyable listen. I took it as just, I know you told me they were demos, but I was just kind of like, well, these are the songs. This is just what they are.
Thanks. And they're all no vocals yet, but I mean, like I said earlier too, I sing them live. They change here and there, but
yeah.
We'll see. I got to put it out soon though. I'm going to commit right now.
Nice. Cool. Lynden Williams, check him out. Divorce Court. Just Divorce Court. You don't put like music at the end, right? Just Divorce Court.
Yeah. Sometimes. On the Instagram, I had to use music because of the TV show Divorce Court, but yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I guess if you start typing that into the internet, there are going to be people out there getting in trouble with their spouses. What is this search you're doing?
Search.
All right, cool, man. Well, thanks again for taking the time. And definitely everyone check it out. Look them up on Spotify, Divorce Court. And then it's SoundCloud/divorce_court, I believe, right?
Yeah, I don't know why it was taken. And then Bandcamp too, if you like Bandcamp. But it's all.
Cool. You'll recognize it by the hazy, lo-fi look to everything.
Yeah, right, thanks, man. I appreciate it. A lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you, the listener, for tuning in. And we'll be back soon. Have yourselves a great day. Take care.